we're going to go through most of these kind of quickly. We're going to start with number 680. And this was an odd one. Now we're back to Case and Coslow. And if you don't remember who they are, they work with TAG, the agency group. There's been an ongoing dispute about their discovery. There's really got to be something Blake saw at some point that she really, really wants that she's not getting, and it's making her mad. So there's just this ongoing thing with these two. So they pop up again. But what bothers me about this one is that in here, highlighted in green, so they had asked the judge to seal certain documents. But in this filing, they say in green, Miss Lively takes no position on this request to redact. So they asked the court to redact, to be able to redact. Blake said she had no problem with it, but for some reason, the judge has a problem with it. This is one of those situations where I feel like the judge sometimes is busy lawyering for Blake, because why does he care if they don't care? He wants them to file a supplemental letter by tomorrow to explain with particularity why each of the requested redactions is necessary. So I just find it very, very odd that he cares when opposing parties don't care. The only thing that I could come up with is that he's trying to keep his reputation or whatever intact, so that at some point, if somebody requests this and there is opposition from opposing counsel, they can't point to this case and say, well, Judge Lyman allowed it in Lively versus Wayfair. That's the only thing I could come up with. But maybe Omar or Not Actually Golden or Little Girl Attorney or somebody will come up with a better answer for that than I have. But in racking my brain, that's all I could come up with, because I just don't understand. If opposing counsel doesn't have a problem, why do you have a problem that you need this explained better? He's not one to be big on redaction, which is really, really strange, because if you saw the episode where I showed the Court of Appeals, which is a higher court than his court, their standards, they redact everything. They redact addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, all of it as a standard. And then his fellow judges who are in his same court in their individual practices, which is the rules for their own particular courtrooms, a lot of them have that same standard about addresses. It's already built in, like it doesn't have to be requested. It's just there. So he's kind of a standalone person in that area that does not require that stuff and seems to be so touchy about redactions happening. So that was a strange one. So moving on to 681. This one's just kind of a little housekeeping, and this is about Jed Wallace. So this is also about sealing, not redacting, but sealing. So in his motion to dismiss, his case was dismissed, but without prejudice, which gave Blake the right to refile, and she did, of course. So in his response to her, he included parts of her deposition. Now, unlike the previous attempt by Kevin Fritz, who put in the entire deposition, he just used excerpts. So he had them attached as exhibits. He had them quoted throughout the actual motion. So in the motion, he redacted, the exhibits are sealed. None of this has hit the public docket yet. But of course, when you seal something like that, that's somebody else's, you ask them what they want done with it. Do they want to keep it sealed? Now, in this case, Blake also said she didn't intend to move for it to be sealed. He's requesting of the court that since she doesn't mind that it be unsealed. And now I'm like, is he going to write a letter to Jed and say, who knows, to try to keep this sealed? Who knows? But unlike, like I said, the situation where Kevin put the entire deposition, this one's just the narrowed down bits that do apply to this motion. So there really shouldn't be a problem with these becoming unsealed, which is kind of cool, because then we'll get to read that. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but we will get to read some of her deposition, at least parts pertaining to Jed Wallace, that he felt needed to be added to his motion to dismiss, that I really, really hope gets granted again, and this time with prejudice, and that he just gets to pursue his own lawsuit in Texas. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. So this little green, I just wrote this because it may sound confusing, and that's what I always try to think of when I look these things over. Alternatively, sever and transfer. So it sounds like he's saying sever and transfer this stuff, but he's just referring to the whole motion to dismiss. He's just reminding them, I don't want to be in this court. I want to be in my own court in Texas. If you don't rule in this favor, just send me back to Texas. So that's not specifically talking about the exhibits. It's talking about the entire case. Then we're going to move on to 682. This one is, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this either. This one is also about redacting. They're being more careful now because of what happened the last time with Case and Coslow. This time, though, is specific stuff from Wayfair, and these are in their reply to that big old omnibus filing that Blake filed, that huge thing with all of the motions to compel. So these are the bits that they want the court to redact. So they've gone through and labeled them distinctly and said why they want each one. But that's not the interesting part about this. The interesting part is actually the exhibits. And this little, I highlighted this one in green, so as we go through them, keep this little note in mind. This text exchange is dated weeks before Miss Lively was engaged to work on the film. So if you remember, in her request for production, she asked for stuff from before she was even a part of this movie, which was really, really strange. And so we are going to see some things from that time period. Now, this stuff is redacted, and we didn't go through all that. There were some different reasons about sensitive information, about it being trade secrets, work product, all that kind of stuff. So we are going to see like bigger sections that are redacted, and then certain names, or for the reasons that they went through there, it's not really super important to the case. But this, we're going to start with this little orange thing at the top. Look at the date. This is January 21st, 2025. Now, these are conversations with the crisis team. So if it was January 21st, that means it's after the CRD complaint was filed. That was December 20. It's after the New York Times article hit. That was December 21st. It's after the lawsuit was filed by Blake, which was December 30th. And then even after the counter lawsuit by the Wayfarer parties. So this is all well after, like I said, not just the lawsuits, but the New York Times article. So as we learned when we were looking at the responses to the sanctions that they try to file against Brian Friedman, and I didn't go through that one on here, only because when they filed for the sanctions, I did a video about it, and I used Rule 3.6, the rule that they used, and I went on to Part D of that to show all of the reasons why it was perfectly fine for Brian Friedman to speak out when he did. One of the reasons being that after something significant happens in a lawsuit case or in a lawsuit, they can comment on it to the public. Also, after opposing party makes some kind of awful remark in the press that the attorney, it's his duty, in fact, to defend his client, it's perfectly fine and within that rule in those codes of conduct for him to come forward and do just that. Due to the extent necessary, try to take the prejudice off his client. So there was absolutely nothing wrong. And then it turned out, and it was really, really exciting for me to see, it turned out when Wayfarer did respond to that sanction motion, they used the exact same arguments that I used. So I felt really, really, I did a little victory dance because I got it right. But I wasn't going to cover it again because it does repeat a lot of what I said on the on that video that I covered. He just used different articles than the ones that I had selected. But keeping all of that in mind, that means that during this time, all post-lawsuit, it was absolutely fine for him to have his attorneys or his PR people to defend him in the press. So with that in mind, there really isn't anything to complain about these, because when she filed her CRD complaint, when she gave all that information to the New York Times, and when she filed her lawsuit, she had already made the retaliation claim, claiming that the stuff that happened in August was retaliation for a complaint that has yet to be substantiated. We haven't seen an official complaint yet, and it doesn't cover him defending himself against this lawsuit. So I don't understand what they're trying to say with any of this stuff. But what this is, so the first thing we have, this orange, this goes to a Daily Mail article. And when this was, you'll probably remember that this is when many of us stopped believing Blake. When this dance scene was released in its entirety, not just the clip from the movie, but the whole filming of it. We got to see the behind the scenes, we got to hear every word. And if you remember, the importance of why this was released was because a big chunk of Blake's complaint was about this scene. She thought that there was no sound because in that part of the movie, there wasn't meant to be sound for their dialogue. So she thought none was recorded. She didn't realize that Justin was mic'd and that there was recording of their entire conversations. And it disproved her initial claims so to the extent that in her amended complaint, she had to completely change the wording. So this stands out so much to us because it was a turning point, at least for me, and I've heard many, many people say the same thing, that seeing this, we realized she was lying at best, misleading, being deceptive about what actually happened during the filming of this scene. Another thing for me, beyond seeing that what she said isn't what happened, a big point for me is because this was like a behind the scenes thing, we got to see when he would say cut. And remember, after they filmed, she wanted them to come back and film again with a focus on her stupid shoes. Do you guys remember that? That's how traumatized she was by what happened during the filming. The film, what they needed for the actual movie was already there. It was done. But she's like, oh, let's do it again to film my shoes. And back, arms up on him, snuggle close to dance to film her shoes. Completely her request, not something he made her do. If I had just stood there and felt like somebody was slobbering on my neck and shouldn't have been, I certainly would not have made myself go through it again to film it again just to get my stupid shoes. But that's what happened. But my point is, what we saw is like during the cut, when we saw him dancing, we see just even in this picture, the smiling, the way he's leaned in close to her, the way he looks at her. It looks like, wow, they're so in love. But the second it's a cut, he cannot get away from that woman fast enough. Do you guys remember that? If you don't remember that, watch it again. Watch his body language when he's not acting. He's done with her. He wants far away from her. There is no lingering, oh, I love touching you. And that was huge for me because I thought her accusation was that he was trying so hard to sneak in kisses. He was trying so hard to like get in on her neck. He was just getting everything that he could out of the scene, using the scene as an excuse just to be close to her and touch her and kiss her and all of this stuff. And yet, as soon as it was cut, he was so far away. If it was really and truly his intention to just be enjoying these moments to be close to her, he would have lingered. He would have found reasons to to stay there close to her. Do you know what I'm saying? And I meant to, and I forgot, and it just popped back in my head again, and I'm mad at myself for forgetting. But if you look at scenes from Town, the one, is it, what's it called? The Town or something like that. The one she filmed with Ben Affleck. There were pictures taken, and I have copies of them, and I'm so mad I forgot to add them here. But you can look it up. Look that movie up, and there are a lot of behind the scenes scenes. Yes, The Town, thank you. Of the two of them, and they are very cozy up on each other. And I was like, what? Because it's rumored that they had an affair during that time. And that she had actually sent nudes to him that were found by his then wife, Jennifer Garner. And that Reese Witherspoon actually called her out when she was accepting an award not long after that, because she was good friends with Jennifer Garner, and she was angry about it on behalf of her friend, because she's a good friend. But there were scenes of them lingering, and they were not filming. They were just there on the set and just very, very cozy. What a contrast between Justin and her and that. As soon as it was cut, he was away. The other thing I was thinking of is Green Lantern. We saw Ryan and Blake all cozy and chummy and goofing off, and her pretending to hit him during interviews when they weren't acting. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you expect to see if someone is truly taking advantage of these romantic scenes to try to be close. You're going to see lingering, and he didn't do that. But now I've gone way off topic here. 100%, he was not trying to get close to her. He was doing his job. So this is that link, and it's why that was such a big deal when that was released. And naturally, why Blake and her team would be angry seeing that released. So we have some more things that are going on. And we have mentions of TMZ, Popcorn Planet, and I'm sure the Blake fans just went wild when they saw Popcorn Planet and Perez's names mentioned here. It's not a smoking gun. This is PR. This right here is the PR crisis team's messages. They were working together to do what they were hired to do. And one of those things would mean finding articles that were out there that were in your client's favor and thinking, okay, this is a good route. We might be able to give them some information and maybe they will post it. That is not a smoking gun. That is what PR does. That is what they are allowed to do. And what's more is that's what Blake's team was doing at the very same time. And keep in mind that during that time, there was an active counterclaim lawsuit against Blake and Ryan for defamation. So if Blake and Ryan could continue feeding stuff like this to their preferred media, so could Justin. So just keep that in mind, and don't panic when we see this like, oh, they've been caught. They were doing the job that we knew all along that they were hired to do, and it was okay. The next link to TMZ went to this one. This was another article about the release of this dance scene, and that's what it's talking about. You see, raw, it ends with us scene. So this was nothing secretive. This was just PR doing what PR is hired to do. On the next page, this conversation continues. Oh yeah, I forgot to point out. So what they had said about, they say, how do we get to Perez? He's been supportive and getting traction on his coverage. This does not, so he was already posting in favor of Justin. They did not hire him to do it. He was doing it. And they're like, okay, he's been favorable. Let's send him stuff. And the same thing with Popcorn Planet. This is just PR people on their private chat doing their jobs and talking about it. So again, no smoking gun here. And they do mention Brian, but they just say oh, he's a lawyer, so he will know how to get in contact with them. That's all they said. There's no Brian hired him, nothing like that. This last, oh yeah, that's the TMZ link that I already went to. And then this, this one kind of made me laugh, because this is different dates now. If you look, this is December of 2022. So this is before Blake was hired. And we know that not only by the date, but by the context. There's a list of actresses that they were considering. And I bet when they look at this now, they just want to die, because they're probably like, any one of these, anyone but Blake. They're probably like, why, oh, why didn't we pick one of these people? But if you look at the conversation, they're saying Blake Lively wants to do it. And this person, Henny Grace, is actually flying to New York to meet with her that next week to talk about it. So, and then, is it this page? Maybe it's the next one. Justin makes the comment that, oh no, this is a different one. I thought it was there, but Justin made a comment that that list, they were too young to be opposite him. And so, yeah, they end up with Blake, but I bet they just want to go back in time to this moment and make everything different. Then this one goes ahead to December of 2023. This is when things are bad. And this is just another one of Justin saying he's going to go meet with her. And imagine that you're the boss, and to meet with your employee, you have to ask your friends for prayers. It's really, really sad that that's what it had come down to. And then the last page of this I didn't even bother to put up because it's entirely blacked out. But in the letter to this, they give all of the reasons that they wanted to do it. All right. And this wasn't as big a deal as we thought it was going to be. And it's about the subpoena. So it was denied, but it's really not a big deal. He ruled on the two issues. There was Wayfair asking to be able to serve her in an alternative way. And then there was those ridiculous attorneys that are representing her that were asking for sanctions. So he denied both of them. And truly, if we look at the reasons, and he denied them without prejudice. And we'll get to the reasons that he denied without prejudice too. But he also did something that I kind of like that he does. When he's denying something in a lot of cases, he actually he took his time. He did 7 pages with this order. So he took his time to fully explain what his reasons were for making this decision. And they are legitimate reasons. So he didn't do this just to side with Blake or anything like that. He explains himself really, really well. And in addition to explaining himself, he gives them a map for where to go from here. He doesn't just say, nope, denied. He does give them a map. So he says that that typically it requires a party to demonstrate a prior diligent attempt to personally serve. And he's kind of bringing attention to the fact that he's not even saying you didn't do a diligent attempt. He's saying you didn't tell the court that you did a diligent attempt. You didn't tell the court where you got those addresses. They hinted at it, but they didn't come right out and say, this is what we did to find the addresses, and this is what we did in our attempts to serve her. They basically didn't like I said, he's not even saying you didn't do a good job. He's saying you didn't tell the court that you did a good job. You didn't do enough to prove the due diligence that has to be proven in order to be granted this kind of thing. So let me see where I'm at here. And I did enjoy some of the writing actually, because it was kind of funny. He says that he's talking to Isabela's attorneys in this one. He says, it may well be that certain materials the Wayfarer parties now seek are duplicative of ones Ferrer already produced in response to Lively's subpoena, and that having to reproduce those materials might constitute an undue burden, because they made the claim that it did. He says, given, however, and this part did make me laugh, that Ferrer has not even yet been served with the subpoena, it's premature to decide whether and to what extent the subpoena has imposed an undue burden on her. And that's funny. It's like, how are you claiming undue burden when you don't even have the subpoena yet? How have you been burdened in any way at all, let alone unduly? So he says, presently, the subpoena itself has imposed no burden on her. How could it have? She doesn't even have it yet. So I do got to give him, he did make me laugh with that. So I did have a little appreciation for him today. The only current hardship Ferrer can point to is that the stemming from the purported need for Ms. Ferrer to file the opposition brief is that she cited in which the court has awarded these sanctions based solely on an individual's opposition. Let me try to shorten this. So, yeah, let me forget all that part. Should the Wayfarer parties in fact serve a subpoena on Ferrer, and should Ferrer have objections to that subpoena, the proper course, as I said a million times, is for her to raise these objections in accordance with the rules 45, or to file a motion to quash. So he's saying you were way too premature with this. Wait till you get the subpoena. And then if it's undue burden, file a motion to quash, or another file for it to be narrowed. But so he felt both sides failed. And what I had wanted to do was to go through the differences between what each party asked, to compare, because one of their arguments was that she's already given the stuff to Blake. He can just get the stuff from Blake. And like I said, they're going to want completely different things from Isabela. So this this account that I follow on X, he's really, really funny. And I love his name for this certain pro-Blake person that most of us cannot stand for multiple reasons. But he calls him a pasty-faced Nimrod, which makes me laugh every time I see it. I never get tired of it. But he did what I had wanted to do. Thank you, just Ricardo. Isabela, were you lying then or now? Isabela, yes, exactly. So here's what he says. He goes, substantially similar, my booty. Here are the differences. What Wayfarer wanted was during production, during editing, or promotion of the film, but Blake only asked for production during production of the film. Naturally, they were not having these conversations then. Him and Isabela's relationship, as we've all seen in both texts that she sent him and in an interview where she talks about how comfortable it was to film these scenes, obviously she had not heard anything bad about him. Obviously, there was communication later, though, between her and Blake, and that's what he wanted. So naturally, Blake's not going to want that stuff on there because she knows what this communication was. So does Wayfarer have a right to ask for this? Of course they do. And she can't get out of it because it was undue burden, because this is something that he needs. Let's see. Wayfarer asked for any intimate scenes in the film. Of course, Blake doesn't want that because Isabela has already told the world that nothing untoward happened during that time. So the next one, all communications relating to Baldoni and Heath. Of course, Blake didn't ask for these things. So this is not the same. It's not going to be enough for him to just take what Blake asked for. So it's very, very reasonable that they get to serve their own subpoena on her for, I mean, and these are just a few examples. I don't know if he went through all of it or not, but yeah, this is completely different. Now, some other news broke today, also on X. Blake has been asked to join a movie. It's called The Survivalist, and it's a rom-com. And there's some funny things with it that we're going to go over real quick just before we end this. Notice something. It's in pre-production. So that means it's a long way to go. But these are the producers. So I have IMDb Pro, so it has everything on there. Stuff you can't get with the regular IMDb. So these are the filmmakers. She is one of the producers. One of the things that I find so funny is that Blake tried to build up her career to be something, and I've always said she didn't earn a PGA credit. She didn't earn the right to be a director. She didn't earn what she wants to be seen as in Hollywood. And this is absolute proof of it. What do they refer to her as on IMDb? They always find what you're known for the most. Gossip Girl. Known for Gossip Girl when? 2007. What does that tell you? That nothing she has done since then has been a big deal in her career as this. Exactly. God help that production. So this is what we have so far. We have the producers. What else do we have? The only cast that's listed so far is Blake, who is going to want to step up knowing that they're going to be her love interest. It's a rom-com. These people are going to fall in love. Who dares to take the role opposite her? No one yet. No one yet. We also don't have a director yet. Who is going to want to direct this woman? Good luck to any of them. And I kind of rolled through to see, because I hadn't heard. Who do we have? We have no, sorry, wrong one. These are the writer is Tom Melia. He's known for Rye Lane. I've never heard of him or Rye Lane, but I'm not the one to go for because I'm not a big follower of movies and stars and stuff. And then the executive producer is Scott O'Brien, known for something called Long Shot. I haven't heard of those either. So I just did a roll through to see, and I don't recognize a single thing for either one of these people. I don't know if you guys do, but they're not big grossing things. These are probably things that lost money, but yeah, neither of them have anything big here. And yeah, this is all TV. So yeah, so good luck with that. Seriously, nobody's gonna want to be there. Oh, this is something else I added. What is this? Let me look at my notes again. Oh, this is what we're on Docket Watch 4. They gave, let's see. This was a request for documents that was overbroad and burdensome. And February 18th, the date Lively filed her amended complaint. A cutoff date that would apply. Oh yeah. This is about the things that Blake has asked with the Wayfarer team for. Sorry, I couldn't remember what this document was. And she wants things all the way to the present. Wayfarer has given her just up until December 20th. And she's like, no, I want all of it up until now. And they're like, no, you don't need all of it. You didn't provide up until now. So this has been addressed. There's been a back and forth. And so the judge actually gave them a little bit of an extension to reply. So that's what this is. And this is due today, August 21st, 2025. Like I said, before I got on here, it hadn't shown up yet, but it probably did because it only has 55 minutes left to make the deadline. So that will be something to keep on the lookout for, and that I will probably cover tomorrow if I can, to see what their response is to that, because that's a big deal to me. And I really hope the judge does not allow them. They've already made one concession. They're saying, okay, we'll go beyond December. We'll go up until she filed her second amended complaint, which was February 18th, which I already feel like is too far. Oh, it posted. Thank you. Thank you, Don't F with Justice. You say posted. Okay. Oh, Ellen filed it. Yay. My favorite.